Blog Talk Radio.
It goes down smooth. It's the Daily Shot Talks live program right here on Blog Talk Radio and live on YouTube worldwide. You can always find us at Daily Shot Talks on Twitter. You can go to our Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/DailyShotMedia. Give us a like over there. Twitter's the best place to interact. Hit us up at Daily Shot Talks. And if you want to call the program, we are live right now on Blog Talk Radio. 516-387-1866 is the telephone number. I'm Barry Gadbois coming to you live just around the corner from the Basketball Hall of Fame in the Pioneer Valley studio of Daily Shot Media. And I want to bring in the co-host with the most, Dan Gadbois. He's in the Capital Region studio. What's up, Dan?
Cheers, buddy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Cameron Robbins, our third musketeer, is on assignment today, so I'm expecting that he will pop in here at some point with something to contribute to the program. But he is not with us right now. You're stuck with just us, and we have each other. It's really kind of sweet. I don't hear you. Did you mute yourself, Dan?
Yeah, hold on.
That's off to a good start. This show's off to a really, really good start. I'll tell you what, you can't beat it. Hey, one thing I do want to say is, yes, I do hear you now. Yep, just like a Verizon commercial now. I hear it. It checks in the mail. Okay. Hey, congratulations, by the way. It is the middle of May now, although it feels like every day has been Groundhog Day since about March 16th. Congratulations to all the graduates out there who are graduating from college right now, who will graduate from high school in the next few weeks, who have been robbed of a lot of the sort of senior year accoutrement of achieving your graduation. Congratulations. It's really, really awesome. A lot of people are doing these virtual commencements. I think some of them are better done than others, and I know a lot of people are trying to figure out right now all over the country how they could maybe figure out a drive-in or drive-through high school graduation. But congratulations to all the graduates. And I'll tell you one thing that the graduation situation has led to is that a lot of big commencement speakers are now appearing virtually. You get a virtual visit for your commencement. Not like President Trump, I think, is going to do the West Point commencement in person, but a lot of other virtual commencements, like former President Obama, who joined a virtual commencement over the weekend. And one thing that I noted about the former president was how he totally kept it apolitical, did a really, really nice job.
All those adults that used to think were in charge and knew what they were doing, turns out they don't have all the answers. A lot of them aren't even asking the right questions.
Huh, interesting. You know what? Maybe you should have asked the Iranians what they were going to do with the cash. You know what I mean, Mr. President?
When we go low, they go high. Is that what it, or the other way around? What's that supposed to be?
And by the way, Trump, speaking of going lower, I basically said on multiple occasions that Barack Obama was an incompetent president. That was his line. So it's interesting to me that Obama has jumped back into the fray as sort of a political operative now more than a former president, and using a commencement.
The Democratic Party needs him.
Barack Obama is the progressive version of Donald Trump. That's the problem, because he's polarizing. I think he does as much to motivate the people who don't like him as he does to motivate the people who do. That's the problem.
But I think if you're the Democratic Party right now, you're sitting there looking at this going, who do we have? Who do we have that's going to motivate anybody to go out and vote? It's not going to be Sleepy Joe. So who's going to be the guy?
Just because he's confused by some geese flying by doesn't make him a bad candidate. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so I think speaking of the DNC, it has to do something. I think wheeling Obama out right now is what they're hoping is going to motivate people to support Joe.
Well, if there's one thing he did a nice job of not using a college commencement as an opportunity to take a passive-aggressive shot by not naming names, but just talking about people's sort of lack of adulthood. It was really good, very classy. I mean, absolutely the high road.
Yeah.
The other person who participated in a commencement over the weekend was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and she had an interesting experience.
Good afternoon, graduates. Thank you for the immense honor of addressing you.
Oh my God! What kind of a commencement was that? Where we needed to dress the graduates? What was going on there, Nancy?
Good afternoon, graduates. Thank you for the immense honor of addressing you.
They actually just left Joe Biden, so they needed to get dressed. So
I think if you show up naked and then your speaker dresses you. So there you go.
that's good.
But in all seriousness, though, congratulations to everybody who has graduated or is graduating. It's got to really suck to have gone this far and put this much in and have your graduation land in the middle of this coronavirus train wreck.
I think the important thing to think, too, I was talking to a neighbor the other day who has a daughter who's graduating college this year. For me, I've thought about this as being, an opportunity to celebrate and kind of look back on the last 4 years. But for this person's daughter, she was in an internship with the state Senate. Now she is, unfortunately going to lose out on contacts, going to lose out on hopefully getting a job for the summer or fall. So I think, we've got this also from a logical future point of view, that these graduates have an uphill climb that I don't think generations have seen in a long time.
Well, they do, and it's the same. I think it's actually the same climb that most people who are small and medium-sized business owners have, which is that once things get back to quote-unquote normal, the world hasn't stopped in the background. So there's another class coming behind these kids who are going to catch up to them, and there are more people who are trying to now capture people who want to go to the gym and people who are going to go to restaurants. That the competition for business hasn't stopped either. These kids are in the same boat, other than people who work for the government, who, as near as I can tell, none of them have lost a thing. Everybody else is going to be fighting for a smaller piece of the pie, and that includes graduates and includes small and medium business owners.
Well, the interesting thing to think about, too, in the restaurant world, we always say you're in a cycle. So typically people have 2 to 3 restaurants they cycle through. You got the short stop, you got 7Bs, they become your habitual places. So, the rumble.
Those are mine.
So,
you hit them.
Right. But for a lot of people, this is going to reset that, right? So, people who are regulars to locations that have been closed or doing takeout only are going to reset where they go. And it's an interesting time for restaurants to look at where their business come from, because it may not be the place their business came from in February or January. You have to market and tactically get people in the door differently than you have, in your past.
Yeah, it's interesting now. So a couple of things have popped up here in the last few days. One of the things that I thought was the most interesting was an announcement from the governor of Illinois. And here's a little bit of sound from our friends at WAND in Illinois with information
Breaking news at 10, Governor Pritzker has filed new emergency rules that could put business owners who violate his stay-at-home order in jail for up to 1 year.
Up to 1 year, says Governor Pritzker there in Illinois, if you violate the stay-at-home order. So to say, listen, if you're a rapist or a murderer and you might be at risk for COVID, you're out. You could get out of jail. However, if you own a hair salon and you're about to go under, then you're not allowed to open. You're going to jail. You will get the jail cell of the rapist who is released. Absolutely crazy.
There's logic on both sides, right? Like, I know you and I disagree on this, but if you want me to wear a mask, fine, I'll wear a mask. If you want me to socially distant, I'll socially distant. I can do those things. However, we flattened the curve. It's time to get back to work. And the fact that states like Massachusetts, or New York for that matter, haven't given businesses a timeline. We're phase 1, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, maybe more, who knows? Restaurants are phase 2, this is phase 3. It's crazy, man. And the fact we're putting people in jail over this is nuts. I'm not saying that there's not risk. I'm not saying that people should be out, not being socially distant, not practicing good behaviors, not sanitizing. But there's logic on both sides. You can wear a mask and be socially distant and still operate your business.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, this is what you got to understand, and this is what, from the beginning, this is the thing that I have understood about this, is that when you give power, it is not given back. When somebody takes emergency power, it's just like money. It's just like money. When somebody takes money, there's nothing temporary about it. That's why you got to listen to Lindsey Graham.
Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it.
Yeah, I hope you never get it, because you're never going to give it back. And Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker came out yesterday with a big PowerPoint, graphics and colors and charts and logos that essentially says nothing. It doesn't say they're going to allow churches to open at 40% capacity this weekend. Other than that, basically nothing changes. If you're really lucky, in a couple of weeks, you're going to get a drive-through library service and you're going to get some curbside retail. Restaurants for outdoor dining, not included in phase one. Total garbage here in Massachusetts that restaurants with patios and outdoor seating can't use it, but that's the way it goes. The full reopening plan, by the way, for Massachusetts is not going to come to its culmination until August if everything runs on these crazy 4-phase, 3-week schedules. It's insane.
Dude, somebody is going to overreact to this, whether it's Baker, who I think is poised to because he's handled this so poorly, but at some point this summer, somebody's going to see a spike, and they're going to freak out and shut it all down and start over, and that's going to be a mistake. So,
well, I saw Sharman Sacchetti, who's a great reporter in Boston, actually former reporter at WTEN in Albany, great political reporter in Boston. Marty Walsh had a press conference today and said, he's not. So the state of Massachusetts says you could reopen office buildings at 25% occupancy. Mayor Walsh says he's not personally comfortable with that number. Right. And if there's one thing that we know as good students of civics, this country was founded on the idea that we shouldn't do anything that chief executive officers of cities and towns aren't comfortable with. That should be really the benchmark that we look at here. So I think the overreaction's already there. It's already happening.
It's good. I disagree. I think it's going to be bigger and worse. There will come a point, because there's going to be an uptick, right? We have to realize that as people get closer together, there is going to be an uptick. So the point is to manage that uptick and to keep it at a minimum. But somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to overreact and shut it all down. And I hope it's not New York. I hope it's not Massachusetts. But it will be somebody. And Cuomo and Baker have not exactly been excellent in their handling of this.
Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it.
So my hero for the day is a gentleman by the name of David Blondin, who owns a gym. It's funny that a gym owner would be my hero, but he is.
Yeah.
Place called Prime Fitness and Nutrition in Oxford, Massachusetts. So if you're anywhere around central Massachusetts, you should get over there. Even if you don't want to work out, you should buy a membership or buy some shakes or something from this guy, because he has essentially said that he's fed up with all these restrictions, and he's opening his doors starting this week. So quote from him here at masslive.com. He says, whether you're big or small, or whether you're a studio or wherever you are, start opening your doors. He said, we're all in this together. If Walmart, which is right down the street, can have 356 cars, then we can work out. And you know what? This guy sounds like a real American hero right now. He's absolutely right. Why in the hell can't he get people into his gym and be responsible about how they distance and how they wipe down the equipment?
That's the thing, man, is it's almost like the government doesn't trust you. Like, I operate a business. I know how to operate my business. I know how to manage my people. That's what business managers, business owners, business operators do. They need to be entrusted with that power. It's a right for them to do those things.
And is there any question at this point that I guess there is a question, because people don't understand that for the small business owner or the medium-sized business owner, these paycheck protection loans and other alleged mechanisms that the government's put in place to help them are not going to do the trick. Paycheck protection is a loan. Unless you spend it on payroll, then it can be forgiven. But businesses don't need loans right now. They got to pay their rent. They got to keep their insurance. They got to keep the electricity on. They got to keep their property up. Those are real fixed costs that are not going away just because some dope says that the economy is on pause. They don't understand what these business owners are up against.
And here's the thing, too. In New York, Cuomo has said that if you don't bring back 100% of the staff that you had with COVID, there will be repercussions in the loans. And if you, as a restaurant, again, I go back to restaurants, if you reopen at 25% or 50% capacity, you physically cannot have 100% of the staff. The math doesn't make sense. Look, I don't want people out of work either. Nobody does. But you can't expect a business to operate at 100% with only 25 or 50% of the revenue. It's impossible, especially if it's being shut down for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. Who knows?
516-387-1866 is the telephone number here on the program. You can always hit us at Daily Shot Talks on Twitter. I know our friend Billy Stetson, I saw the Rumble Seat posted that they were getting their patio ready because there was some anticipation over there in Chicopee that they might be able to have outdoor seating in place with the announcement from Massachusetts governor did not happen. Also, as you mentioned, the shortstop, my friend Nabil over at the shortstop, that says that they're basically ready. They're ready to kick it off on the patio. And finally, we got some nice weather here in the Northeast. So all of these places are sitting on go and now waiting. I mean, ultimately just waiting. And I don't know how long. This is the thing. If more people took the approach that Prime Fitness in Oxford is taking, and they just opened up and flooded the channel, what's anybody going to do? There's no way to stop them all. That's my take on it.
The problem, especially for restaurants, is that if you take the liquor license, which they can do, and they're very hard and very expensive to manage, you're done. You're dead. And I'm sure, I don't know the ins and outs of retail or fitness or whatever, but I'm sure there's similar recourse that local governments have.
The occupancy permit or something like that.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And that puts out of business, right? If you lose any of that stuff, you're done. So the risk-reward here needs to be that the governor needs to open the areas back up. And as far as outdoor seating, there's proof that this virus doesn't do well in sunlight, that doesn't do well in high temperatures. So why aren't we encouraging outdoor seating? Why aren't we allowing it? You know, Vegas is looking at doing outdoor gaming, which I think is a great idea. Let's do the same with dining. Why can't we sit outside 6 feet apart in the sunlight and drink a beer and eat a friggin' burger? It doesn't make sense.
Coming up later in the show, we're going to talk about, by the way, a strip club that is trying to get back to normal. Not in Vegas, interestingly enough. That's coming up a little bit later on the show. And one of the things
I think a good day to drink a Busch then, huh?
One of the things that you keyed on is the enforcement around this stuff. And if we go down to Belmar, New Jersey, that's one of the places that another gym down in Belmar, which is in southern New Jersey, has reopened despite the stay-at-home orders that are in place. He said, the owner of the gym, Frank Trimbetti, said, "We truly believe if we don't do this in the end, we'll have zero rights and no say in what happens." So he said, "Screw it. I'm opening up my business." They had a lot of people lined up outside ready to support him when that happened, when the local cops showed up, which you think might be the beginning of some problems for Frank Trimbetti, who's opening his gym illegally. Here is what the cops had to say to Frank. Oops, I swear it's coming. Here's what the cops had to say.
You are all in violation of the executive order. On that note, have a good day. Everybody be safe.
So down there at Belmar, New Jersey, the police department took the attitude that they would advise people that there was a stay-at-home order and that they were in violation of it, but ultimately be safe and make your own decisions. I mean, what a remarkable way to treat the population at this point, don't you think?
I mean, it's the right way to handle it. A big Back the Blues supporter here, so I'm glad the police are using some common sense with these executive orders and, doing their job, but also, let's be serious and rational about this.
It takes a lot. I mean, the thing is, I said this, it takes a lot of balls. I mean, you point out you have a lot of issues that can be brought to bear, especially a bigger, like if you got a business in a city like Boston or a city like Chicago, the regulatory environment is, you're already done. I mean, you can't even think about going against these orders because you're going to get crushed. Now, having said that, maybe in a place like Oxford, and you can see on the screen here, we have a tweet from our friends at Spectrum News 1 in Worcester that shows Prime Fitness there in North Oxford. Maybe you got a little bit of a different environment or you have a different relationship with the local authorities. But it just seems to me that at this point, especially in these cities and towns, these local health departments and local officials have an opportunity to say, "Hey, we recognize that there's an order in place from the governor, but we're gonna make sure that people have the information that they need, and then we're gonna let them do what they need to do for their livelihoods and their businesses."
I think it's an element of logic as well. Like, look at this. If you come up to a location where people are lined up socially distant, where the business owner or operator is inside the business and he's managing people and he's being safe, then there's no need to crack down on these people. They need to run their businesses, make their money, provide for their families. These small business operators, medium business operators are not rolling in money. These are not millionaires 9 times out of 10. These are people who are operating on 30, 60, 90-day credit, and they need their money. They need revenue.
Well, and despite what a lot of, I think, politicians like tell you these are small and medium-sized businesses are the biggest employers in terms of volumes of employees, and these guys like Dave Blondin in Oxford are literally they put their own money and their own sweat equity into these businesses, and a lot of times you may not draw a paycheck, you may not get anything out of it. The only thing that you have is the ability to continue to do business, and they're having that strangled away from them. By the way, Prime Fitness in Oxford has a GoFundMe, so if people if they do get hit with any fines from the local authorities, or if Governor Baker decides to do something even stupider than what he normally does and take some action, people like us can donate money to a GoFundMe, and I'm happy to do it. I actually said I might buy even though I'm not going to use it because I'm not anywhere near Oxford, I might buy a membership at the gym just to support the guy. Yeah.
I won't. Nobody will believe I'll buy a gym membership, but I appreciate your sentiment.
It could be fun. Maybe we go in there and do some. This seems like, by the way, and I don't know, but seeing the pictures of this Prime Fitness place, this seems like the kind of place you're not going to go in there. You don't just go in there and ride the bike and like watch TV on the treadmill. I think you go in there and get your ass kicked. So it's a little intimidating. This place looks like they got real, training, small classes or personal training. I just want to go in there, maybe get a smoothie and maybe walk the treadmill and watch like Jaws on AMC or something like that. I don't need all the personal training.
15 years ago, I would have met you there. So
it would have been a good decision. At Daily Shot Talks on Twitter. 516-387-1866 is the telephone number on the program. There's another coronavirus-related thing that's going on that I wanted to bring up because I not that either one of us has ever run afoul of the law and gotten any sort of traffic citations. No, but there is an interesting phenomenon that's taking place, and I saw a couple of weeks ago Massachusetts released some numbers that showed even though traffic volume is down, but like plummeted year over year, there's still a lot of people, a lot of accidents, highway fatalities were up. Maybe because people feel like the cops are busy doing other things. I suspect that they're probably not, unless they got to go shut down a gym or shut down a gathering or something like that. There's nobody on the road. There's nobody out in cities and towns. There's nothing to do. So an interesting story here. This is about a New York man. I assume it wasn't you because you're still here. Scott Croto over at Mass Live said a state police patrol caught a driver from New York going 96 miles an hour on the turnpike. By the way, this guy, who is a criminal mastermind, didn't have a license, so he shoved his ID down a storm drain because he thought it would keep Massachusetts state troopers from identifying him. Obviously, that did not work, okay? So the driver was given a citation for unlicensed driving in addition to the speeding. But the interesting thing, the takeaway from this is that patrols in Massachusetts just Friday night made 47 traffic stops, issued 44 citations. They caught two drivers, one going 101 and one going 104. And then they caught 19 of the 44 drivers going over 90 miles an hour in central Mass. I mean, that's pretty fast.
That is.
This is not like
quick.
Montana. It's not. You're not out on the plains of Montana here. This is going through like Worcester.
Yeah, but the Worcester traffic has notoriously been terrible. People must be so excited that the roads are clear they just can't contain themselves.
You think they're getting back some portion of their lives right now? They figure all the time they spent going 10 miles an hour. Now if they go 100, it almost
balances
gets
back
time
out.
back in.
the other interesting piece is that while tax revenue is down, speeding ticket revenue is up. I think that's an interesting phenomenon, if you will. Maybe trying to offset some losses there on the other side of things.
Well, the state police, now this is what the Mass State Police said. Just about every shift is getting at least one 100-mile-an-hour plus and several in the 80s and 90s. If you're one of those dangerous drivers, rest assured, we're looking for you. Hey, if you're going 100 miles an hour, you're asking for it, right?
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I once got a speeding ticket because I was going 55 miles an hour in a work zone on 128. I got a speeding ticket for going 55 in a 55 because it was a work zone.
Well, people don't know, too, is 128 is all a work zone. So if you haven't been on 128, you can't really appreciate the fact that for years it's been a work zone the entire way.
Well, in Massachusetts, the first work zone is in Stockbridge, And then the last work zone ends when you get your feet in the water. There's nothing other than work zones.
I drove the state. I drove 90 actually last week, and the amount of construction happening tells me the tax revenue is pretty good in Massachusetts still, because there's a lot of work happening on those roadways.
Yeah, the cones come out as soon as the snow shovels go away. The cones come out. That's how it works. By the way, we don't call it 90. We call it the Turnpike.
Okay? So sorry, I'm a New Yorker now, so it's.
Yeah, well, it's only the 90 until you're going east, right? And then it's the throughway again. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you got the Northway.
Right.
That go to Saratoga.
Where the Northway meets the throughway is where the throughway goes to Buffalo. 90 goes to Boston. It's very confusing.
Oh my God, I'm having flashbacks of my time at WTEN. It was a long time ago, but I always had so you're on 87, you're on the throughway until you get to 90, and then you're on the Northway, and then this is insane. Right. It's crazy.
Right.
You could understand the highway system in Los Angeles easier than you can understand the highway system, which features 2 highways in Albany.
By the way, 90 goes east and west, and also north and south, which is very interesting. It's like 93 in Boston. Is that 93 or 95? 95 north is also 128 south. That's similar to 90 out here.
Yeah, it doesn't. The Northeast is so totally screwed up with the highways. What's the worst speeding ticket that you ever got?
In one incident, I got not wearing a seatbelt, speeding, and an expired inspection sticker all in the same stop. So that wasn't necessarily the worst speeding ticket, but it was 3 infractions, which forced me to go to driver re-education. The worst speeding ticket I got was 59 and a 30. That's
pretty good. That sounds expensive.
Yeah. It was. The cop was very nice. He didn't have a radar gun on me, and he was guessing 59 because I was doing 75. But I appreciate it.
I actually got a speeding ticket in Worcester once. I was driving to the Worcester airport with a friend of mine in like a stewardess Halloween costume because we had to go shoot a video at the airport. So she was dressed but it was July.
Who was dressed like the stewardess? You or her?
No, she was dressed like the stewardess.
Okay. All right.
I was dressed like a slob, like usual. So we're going to the airport to shoot a scene for a video, and it would get pulled over. So not only am I going like 55 and a 35, I have somebody who's a quasi-local celebrity dressed like a stewardess in the middle of the summer in my truck. It was not good.
We're gonna have to come back to this at some point when Daily Shot Media goes rated X. I need the full story of what video you were shooting with a stewardess.
No. This was totally this was a community. This actually was a part of a video campaign when they were trying to get JetBlue to come to Worcester Airport, which, by the way, succeeded. JetBlue, well, I mean, I don't, maybe not now. Maybe there's a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory. But this was a community-based initiative. This wasn't any kind of shenanigans.
So who blew who? JetBlue?
Oh, boy. All right. We're not going to go lowbrow. 516-387-1866 is the telephone number on the program. You can also find us at Daily Shot Talks on Twitter. I want to go out to the phone lines. We got a caller on the line. We got somebody calling from the 413. So 413, welcome to Daily Shot Talks. How are you?
Good afternoon, boys. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. What's on your mind?
This is a caller from Chicopee, Massachusetts. My name is Michael. I was just tuning in and thought I'd say good job talking about the business aspect of this coronavirus.
Oh, well, that's appreciated. Yeah, no, that's appreciated. So do you have impact on the business out there in Chicopee? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I own a small business. We do audio, video, and lighting, live events, and we're impacted. Probably, I'd say, and I know Dan, you're in the restaurant business, but I think we got hit first, and we got hard even before the restaurant hospitality industry. People can't gather, people can't have events, and we lost all of our business, just like you have, albeit a little bit earlier.
And unfortunately, I think you're going to come back later, which is very unfortunate.
I think you're right about
that. Did the bullet first too.
Oh, I think. Hey, Michael, if you can hear me, I think your phone was breaking up. You might have had a bad cell. Give us a buzz back because I'd love to get into that a little bit further. That's something that I suspect that I know who Michael is, and he's exactly right. I mean, the live events, concerts, even things like weddings and social gatherings and all that stuff. We talk about restaurants should be reopening now, and they're delayed. I think in places like Massachusetts, that stuff is not even on the radar at this point.
No, it's not even close. And you know, any form of large gathering, I think is so far away. You know, concerts are. I mean, tours are canceled throughout the year. I don't think we see concerts till this time next year if we're lucky, honestly.
I did see that Colin Ray, who I always liked, a big '90s country guy, it has a show scheduled in Utah. And he got the blessing from the mayor in whatever municipality in Utah, and they're going to do the show. I imagine it's going to have social distancing, limited capacity, and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, there's some things. And by the way, NASCAR did an outstanding job over the weekend. NASCAR raced the first Cup race at Darlington. They'll be back tonight with an Xfinity show, Wednesday night with a Cup race. They'll at least get on TV and something for the sponsors, but no fans in the grandstands, which is a little tough to take.
They've got to do something at this point. We need somebody to be the first. And I think NASCAR and golf doing what they did this weekend and what's coming up this weekend with Tiger and Phil and Brady and Manning. We need a first sport. And I think NASCAR and golf are the right ones for it. They're the easiest to socially distance. So I think that's they're the leaders of the pack right now, for turn of phrase.
Let's try to go back out to the old daily shot line. I think got a better cell here to connect with Michael in the 413. Are you back?
I'm back. You know, trying to do this remote thing with technology, right? Sometimes it doesn't go as
how every
expected.
meeting goes now, so it's the way it is. Yeah, let me ask you quick because I know a lot of people have, I think, a lot of myopia when it comes to small businesses and what this financial challenge is like, because although the world has stopped for some people, the bills and the pressures haven't stopped for businesses. What do you think that people are going through right now?
Well, you know, I think, as you guys said earlier, the general public probably looks at it and says, well, the government's helping small businesses, there's the PPP program and other programs, but it's really not as black and white as it seems. You know, you talked earlier about small businesses opening up. Now, the PPP program requires that you spend a significant amount of the money on payroll and bringing employees back, which is obviously important, but that has to be done within an 8-week period. And so for those of us in the events or hospitality business, we're not even allowed to gather or be open. So that 8 weeks is really insignificant. We can't bring staff back and just have them sit around to do nothing. So our PPP loan, or people in our industry, hospitality and events, will not get forgiven. It'll actually turn into a loan. So we're taking sort of an advance, and that loan, by the way, has to be paid back very quickly. So that's an impact that we don't expect to have. It's a monthly expense now that's going to be significant. And I think that people don't realize just opening our doors, so whatever date that is, you were talking earlier about the governor of Massachusetts and the governor of New York indicating when restaurants can open. Just opening doesn't mean cash flow, and it doesn't mean cash flow will return to the volume it was at prior to the shutdown. So it's a real challenge that people aren't thinking about.
Hey, Michael, so I've thought about that a lot in the restaurant business. You know, when going back to work isn't the light at the end of the tunnel for me. 6 months, 9 months, 12 months is, because then we've made it. You know, going back's not it. But you talked about the paycheck protection loans. All that becomes is another line item on your P&L next month, right? Like, what do you have to pay it back? How's the interest rates on it? Is it legitimate, or do you think people shouldn't be taking them?
Well, I think that a lot of people are taking it out of desperation, Dan, because there's no place else to turn to get any money to pay the overhead. So I'll speak for my business. So we took the PPP loan, but we have not brought back any employees yet. What we're using the money for is to pay overhead. You know, Barry mentioned earlier there's rent, there's insurance. Now, you can use it for rent, and you can use it for health insurance, but there's all sorts of other things. There's business insurance, liability. insurance. There's equipment financing. The restaurant business is also a capital-intensive business, just like my industry is. You've got to buy equipment and furniture, and you've got leases and loans and all that. You can't use the loan to pay back any of those amounts and get it forgiven. So we've got a lot of overhead, and we've got also vendors that we had balances due. You mentioned restaurants, buying things on credit, selling food and then paying, your bill monthly. We had bills due to vendors that we used our PPP to pay to maintain good relationships with those vendors. So what's going to end up happening is, like in our case, the PPP will turn into, largely a loan. It's at 1%, which is great because it's almost free money. But the challenge is that right now the Treasury Department is indicating it's got to be paid back within 2 years. So let's just say you took a $100,000 loan, and you've got to pay that back over 24 months. That's a significant monthly nut that you've got to carve out of your P&L. So that's another, $4,100 plus a little interest a month that you've got to, take out of your operating expenses. And small businesses, that's a lot of money, and it's just not going to come from increased sales or anything like that, especially in a small margin world like in your case restaurants, or in our case, live events.
Yeah, I mean the restaurant industry. If you're operating at 15 cents on the dollar cash flow, you are very well. You're doing really good. So for $4,100 to then come out of that's a big portion of it, and things are getting tight. And I can't speak for your industry. I don't know, what your margins are like. You don't have to get into that. But $4,100 is monthly is a lot. That's a big.
You got to sell a lot of burgers to cover that $4,100 nut.
Exactly.
What do you think, Michael? What do you think the future looks like? I'm curious as you try to project this out for your business and for the industry, because obviously we're all, whether people realize it or not, they go to, whether it's a social event like a wedding, and I know I have a family member, my kid's godmother, who's supposed to get married in July, and her ability to do that is obviously up in the air, which also means that from a practical perspective, it's up in the air for the venue and the photographer and the caterer and everybody else. People go to concerts all the time, but they don't realize what's happening in the background of those concerts. What do you think the prospectus is right now for live events?
I personally think that we're not going to see live events really ramp back up until 2021. I think the biggest factor is that there's so much unknown. As you said, Governor Baker, much respect to our politicians who do their best, but that document they put out was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's a flow chart, spreadsheet, graphical representation of nothing. It doesn't tell anybody anything useful. But just from the amount of cancellations that I see coming in my business and the amount of inquiries about cancellations, we're getting cancellations for October, November, December already. I really don't see people doing large gatherings and live events till next year sometime. And even then, that's unknown. What if the government suddenly says, oh, there's a resurgence, or the virus is coming back, in the fall or the winter? We have no idea. And the impact to that is beyond huge. There was the Live Events Coalition put out some stats last week saying that the event industry is a $1 trillion industry and employs I believe it was 24 million people. It's a pretty substantial part of the economy, and your neighbors, your friends, your relatives all may work in an industry that supports live events, supports hospitality. You think about the behind the scenes operations. You go to a concert, hundreds of stagehands have to set up that equipment. Road crews have to travel, bus drivers, truck drivers, catering. On your side, Dan, of the world, think about the food distributors, the food processors, manufacturers, beverages, linens. It's just unlimited the amount of spillover into other industries there is, and the amount of industries that are affected by this. It's staggering.
Yeah, no, it's awful, Mike. I talk to a lot of people, that I have relationships with vendor-wise, and they're struggling. Beer distributors, linen. You talk about linen, that's a big one. But we've talked a little bit about like drive-ins making a comeback. If you had to reimagine your industry, where do you see it in 12, 18, 24 months? Does it go back to where it was, or is it going to evolve and change a little bit as we move forward?
Good question. Well, I think, overall we are social beings. Personally, I'm really tired of staring at four walls and not being able to interact with people. People enjoy being together, and whether it's a social activity, and that's, dining out, going out to your favorite bar or pub, and just gathering with friends, or attending a business meeting or an entertainment event, people want to be together. So I think long term, 12 months, 24 months away, I think hospitality and events, the industry is going to roar back. I do believe that in the bottom of my heart. The problem is how do we get there without putting a whole lot of people out of business and out of work? And that's the real challenge. I do believe it's going to come back, and I think it's going to come back strong because people are itching to get out. You mentioned some, alternative style venues. There's a lot of interest in drive-in venues. I recently saw in the news there's a music hall up in New Hampshire that did a drive-in venue. They built an outdoor stage, and I think they can do 50 or 100 cars. I'm not sure on the hospitality side how that works with the, liquor license or liquor service in a vehicle. Maybe you could comment on that. That'd be an interesting conversation. But it was pretty successful on their opening weekend. I think they had a few small local acts, and on the larger side, our industry with large, outdoor LED screens and things like that, you could make even a bigger venue, and you could put a large screen up, make it like a drive-in movie where you're viewing a live concert on stage, but at the same time it's being, delivered to you on a large screen, so the image is bigger. There's a lot of new things, but I think at the end of it all, whether it's 12, 24, 48 months away, I think at the end of it all, we're going to return to normal, and it's going to be, it'll be good. But how do we get there? That's the big question.
For sure. To peel back the curtain a little bit, I know a lot of people in your industry rely on corporate events and corporate management, and there's not a lot of money in that world right now. Are you looking at ways to kind of be more consumer-oriented as opposed to corporate-oriented, doing concerts, commencements, things like that, or are you still kind of focused on live, the corporate side of things?
Well, right now I think everybody is looking at taking whatever work they can get, as long as it's got some margin to it. On the corporate side, I think people still need to communicate, so corporate events in some way need to take place. The challenge for business in our space is that larger clients that have budgets to do this possibly already have these resources in-house. They've got large IT departments, large media departments. And then smaller organizations and nonprofits, they want to do that, but they don't have the financial resources to bring in an outside vendor always. So the trick is kind of readjusting some pricing models and trying to come up with solutions that are affordable for clients that need them and still profitable at the same time. And we are, we're trying to invent, new ways of doing things. We've got some high school graduations that are looking at, creating videos where you would have an appointment with a graduate. They might show up at the high school auditorium, walk across the stage, one at a time. We shoot a video of that graduate getting their diploma, then stitch that whole video together and then air it on Facebook Live or, stream it to a streaming service and build a virtual event that way. So we're trying to invent new ways to do things. But the challenge is a lot of school districts don't have money in their budget for this sort of thing. It just wasn't anticipated. But we are trying to be creative as every industry is.
Michael, I'm curious why. Let me ask you a question, because I one of the things that I've noticed in the course of this shutdown and COVID situation is that there are a lot of people who, work for the government or work for a large company who generally have it pretty easy right now. They are generally working from home or maybe not working from home and still getting paid. They're not getting displaced in the same way that a lot of the people who own and work at small and medium-sized businesses are. So, I know that you got your skin in the game and you work as hard as you do to run a small company. Why do you keep doing it? What's in it for you?
That's a good question, my friend. I think in the live events business, we love the thrill of seeing something that was an idea on a piece of paper coming together. It takes a team of, anywhere between 10 and 100 people, depending on the size of an event. So that's the high I get. That's the roller coaster ride I enjoy. I like to see a project come together when you sit back and step back in the room and say, we built this. Our team, gathered around a conference room table, put an idea together. Our designer put it on paper, and then an amazing team of people built it and made it come together. That's what I live for. I love to see that happen. The moment the lights go down and we say go, that's like descending that hill on a roller coaster for those roller coaster enthusiasts out there. Why do I love owning a small business? Well, I'm a control freak. We'll start there. But no, it's really the satisfaction of saying that a small team of dedicated people made something amazing happen, and that's why we do it. But you're right; it's not always the most profitable thing. It's not always as rosy as people might think. I get people tell me all the time, "Oh man, you own a business, it must be great. You make a lot of money." And just because a lot of revenue flows through the business doesn't mean it all ends up in our pockets. Whether we're talking about an employee or an owner, and that's the hard part. But for some reason, our brains are wired that we go on and we persevere because we love that high that we get, doing what we do. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Dan. I bet you love walking in your restaurant and seeing the bar filled and the restaurant filled and people laughing and smiling and having a good time and having a burger and a drink. That's probably the same high that I get doing an event.
It's funny, man. You said that. I felt a little tingle. I want the rush again. I want to be buried in the kitchen or buried behind the bar, cranking some drinks out. So it's yeah, absolutely, man. It's a great feeling.
That's why we do it.
Well, I hope we're all going to get back to it soon, Mike. Do you want to tell people where they can find you if they're looking for some help with an event or looking for some technical service? Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in Massachusetts. Our company is Zasco Productions. You can find us on the web at zasco.com, and we'd love to help you out.
All right, man. Well, listen, I hope we get to catch up again. I'm sure I'll see you soon, but I'd love to catch up on the show, especially once we all get back to doing the things that we love, and we can talk about what a comeback all these different industries are having. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely, boys. Well, thanks for having me on, and wish you guys the best, too. And, Dan, I hope that restaurant comes roaring back soon.
Me too. Great talking to you. It's been a long time.
All right. Take care, boys.
All right. Hey, my main man, Michael, over at Zasco Productions. He is one of the hardest working dudes that I've ever met. I've known him for a long time and worked with him for a long time. And he is, to me, in a lot of ways, the epitome of the small business owner who's got, absolutely has maximum exposure right now, and I think is getting the minimum amount of help from the government. What the Fortune 500 companies world is like is not what your average barbershop, restaurant, bar, event company, small event venue, you name it. I mean, the list goes on and on of people who are absolutely wrung out right now, and somewhere they need some relief.
It's it's good to talk to people like Michael because all far too often, and I'm included in this, we talk about stuff we don't know, right? We don't know. I've never run a small business. I've never run an audio video business. So to hear what he's going through and what his struggles are, it's eye-opening. I think people overall should listen more than they talk these days, and it was a good conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad he jumped in. That was good stuff, and it'll be interesting to see just how many people like him are going to continue to try to muscle this out, or how many people unfortunately are going to go under. I don't know what particularly I think restaurants, I think people who have a lot of physical exposure are at the highest risk. And I saw Vital Vegas on Twitter has been tweeting about some closures, casinos and restaurants and things in Vegas, which is a 100% tourist supported area. I think it's going to be tough times in Orlando, although Universal City Walk has reopened. And Disney Springs have reopened, and I hope down in Orange County that they're going to start to get people back in. But they are a sort of a macrocosm where their whole industry is relying on this network of venues and network of suppliers, and I hope that we're starting to see, and I think Florida and Georgia, places where they've opened back up and things are happening. We haven't seen anything terrible. There's been no cataclysm. It's been 3 weeks since Georgia reopened. Of course, it's sad to me that I don't see the New York Times, Washington Post, the NBC, DNC network. Nobody wants to talk about the success story that is Georgia. They even got one of those updates and condemn what the governor in Georgia was doing. But 3 weeks later, people are getting haircuts and eating in restaurants, and all hell hasn't broken loose.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100%, man. And the problem is it doesn't fit the narrative, and everybody has to have a narrative these days. So it's positive. I hope it stays positive. I hope more states start opening up. You look at states like Florida, like Texas, like Georgia that have done the right thing. I hope we're not far behind them.
Well, I'll tell you, the one business that I do want to talk about in terms of reopening, in terms of a very stimulating recovery that may be happening, is in the great state of Wyoming. There is I actually saw this headline as I was going through the news, and I thought that this was going to be this sounded more like a Vegas-based story to me, but it's not. It's actually a story that comes to us from the great state of Wyoming, which is a beautiful place, by the way. The headline reads, Wyoming strip club reopens with masks on, close off party. There you can see the tweet from the USA Today right there. A Wyoming judge reopened over the weekend. A Wyoming jiggle joint reopened over the weekend with a mask-on, close-off party as it debuts new corona safety guidelines, according to a report. Kim Chavez is the club's owner. It's a place called The Den in Cheyenne. Said, sure, this is a risk that we're taking. The strip club was able to open alongside the state's sit-down restaurants and bars, which is how the business is classified. As part of the reopening, all of the strippers sport face coverings to dance, and there is ample hand sanitizer available. Cash is exchanged, which could allow for germs to spread, and dancers were touching other patrons. This is from the New York Post. I'm a little nervous because the virus is still out there. I'm glad to be able to go to work because a lot of people can't yet. Doris Craig, who's an entertainer at the club, said. Chavez has owned the bar with her husband for 15 years and says she was concerned about her employees during the shutdown. Back to the small business thing. This is the hardest part about being shut, worrying about the girls, Chavez said. It's heartbreaking because you know every girl's story. I suspect a lot of them are just trying to work their way through medical school.
You buried the lead there. The stripper they spoke of was Doris?
Yes, Doris. Doris Craig.
Come on. I mean, that's fantastic.
But how is it possible that in Cheyenne there are strip clubs reopening with hand sanitizer and masks on the strippers, and in some states like New York, you can't go out and sit on the patio 6 feet from other people and have a hamburger? How is this possible?
But a variety of things. First off, I want to say kudos on the marketing campaign. That is brilliant, and that's what businesses are going to have to do. We talked about kind of changing lifestyles and changing your rotation, and businesses are going to have to change the way they market, and I think that's a fantastic marketing plan. It's just ingenious. But ultimately, Wyoming wasn't crushed by COVID. I think they are a few steps ahead of us here in the Northeast. So I think they should be open. They should have been open a while ago. So, overall, I really think the great story here is that there's a stripper in Wyoming named Doris, and that's what I keep going back to. That's amazing.
516-387-1866 is the telephone number, at Daily Shot Talks on Twitter. Now, seriously, though, here's a serious consideration. Cheyenne is not that far up Interstate 25 from Denver, from Boulder, and some of these other population centers in Colorado. So if you're sitting in Denver, and you got a stack of 20s that's burning a hole in your pocket, what is stopping you then from jumping on the interstate and zipping up to the Den in Cheyenne to go see if Doris needs some help getting through school?
And if anyone ever needed proof that my brother does not love strip clubs, it's that he goes there with a pocket full of 20s, because that is a serious financial mistake. You'll put Doris's great-grandchild through college with that attitude.
Is that not what you're supposed to do?
I mean, I'm not familiar, but I assume the people I've talked to would have told me that 20 to the strip club is a mistake.
We needed some strip club experts. We should have gotten Vital Vegas involved in this to tell us the proper way. And I don't know. I mean, look, maybe the economics are different. If you go into a primo place in Las Vegas, right? I mean, it might be different than going to Cheyenne. Maybe you're going with a pocket full of 10s.
Yeah, or in Cheyenne, a pocket full of corn husks or something. I don't know. Whatever's going right out there.
I think that's Nebraska. I don't think that's Wyoming.
Fair.
What is there any? Here's another consideration. Now, so guys, if you want to go to the strip club, maybe you got a thing, an event with the guys or some outing. You come up with a reason. It's a social thing. But so now, in the middle of the whole world being shut down, I would assume that only single men are running off to the den in Cheyenne right now. Nobody's saying to their wife, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go meet Buck over at the den. Just get a couple lap dances and a couple beers, baby. I'll be right back. I know it's the middle of a pandemic and the world is shut down, but I'll be right back."
Yeah, I mean, I love my wife, so I would never go to a strip club. But I assume you'd have to be single to be wanting to do that right now. You'd also have to be in a super dark place to get a lapper from Doris.
Why are you picking on Doris? She could be beautiful. She might be the most beautiful stripper you could imagine.
I assume for the lap dance, she just puts her boobs over your shoulders. I guess that would be how I see that going.
To keep you warm on those cold Wyoming nights over there.
Yeah.
There are, by the way, in the tweet, you see it if you're watching it on the YouTube. The USA Today story did indeed feature some imagery. I assume that's not stock image. I assume that is actual entertainers who are available for you at the den in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So none of them appears to be 80 years old or whatever you're trying to cast Doris as being here. These girls all seem very nice.
I'm not saying Doris isn't nice. I'm just saying Doris is exactly what I would expect at a strip club in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Now, this topic, by the way, has brought our co-host who's been on assignment has jumped on the line right now as we're talking about the den in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Cameron, have you ever been to the den in Cheyenne?
No. Did you say you needed a strip club expert? So I thought I'd just call in real quick as the
boom. I mean, just like that. Now, Dan,
club expert.
My co-host over here, he says he loves his wife, so he's not going to go to one.
Yeah.
But
would never.
Maybe
I
don't.
I also said that when I was first married. I also said that too. But now I tell her I'm going.
This is how we know
strip
Rachel
club.
doesn't listen to the show.
I was just going to say, so I know your wife is not listening today.
What are you talking about? What are you saying? No.
So there's a strip club. Listen, I'm going to bring it right up to speed. Strip club, Cheyenne,
Wyoming. No, I heard you. The den.
Called
yes.
the den.
I'm looking it up
Doris
right now.
is a stripper. Would you think that anybody is prioritizing going to the strip club right now in the middle of all this other stuff?
I think some are, but am I a widower? Am I?
They offer a $1,200 special.
What,
that seems like a stimulus opportunity.
Yeah, what's the situation? Is there discounts? Is there free steak involved? And by the way, there's no corn husk out there in Wyoming, by the way.
That's what I said. Listen, that's Nebraska. Now listen.
First of all, you said USA Today, and then they show a stripper from Boston on here. Oh, that's her name. Her name is Boston. Dancer at the Den Strip Club in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
She
looks fine.
These
tries on a new mask during the club's reopening on Friday. Listen, I also have to wear a mask as well, right?
I would assume.
Yeah, this is fine. I'm okay with this. Listen, how many times can you say you went to a strip club during a pandemic? I say you do it just for the novelty of it all.
Now, do you think that, what if the hand sanitizer gets in your eyes or something like that? It really could sting. You got to be careful.
Is there a way to combine lube with hand sanitizer and kind of make it an all-for-one product?
Oh, this is a... Listen, hey, this is an adult entertainment complex with entertainers. These women are not ladies of the night.
I promise you, Doris is not
No, but I'm sure there's a massage for $100 that you can get, right?
I think you could probably get a shot for $100. That's what costs $100. Yeah. Dan made fun of me because I said I would go with a pocket full of 20s. What kind of denomination? What kind of currency are you bringing?
Oh, singles, right? You got to bring singles, right?
Thank you, Cam.
Yeah,
this explains the economics of my situation.
Well, first of all, it's Cheyenne, so I don't think your high rollers are going in there with 20s. So I think you'll be fine with singles. The Den has about 25 dancers on rotation. Hey, this looks like the place to go in Cheyenne.
Is there a photo?
Should we go on assignment? Should we go take a look at this?
I think we're gonna have to check with all our EPs to see if that's okay.
It's for work. I think it's okay.
Let's just go to the rodeo. Is there a rodeo in Cheyenne?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Cheyenne.
Yes,
we're gonna go for my 40th.
Days.
We're gonna go to a dude ranch into the den.
That's great. We're definitely gonna be dead at that point. 10 seconds left in the show. Cameron Robbins jumping on the phone. Thanks, Dan Gadboys in the Capital Region studio. I am Barry Gadboys in the Pioneer Valley studio. This is Daily Shot Talks, and we are out.